Hectare by Hectare, the ultimate game changer. Hectare by Hectare is a unique and innovative agricultural initiative conceptualized and developed as a solution to the major problems usually encountered by stakeholders in agriculture and agribusiness, that is, access to land, technical expertise, finance, and markets. In addition to its core mission of promoting employment, wealth creation, financial inclusion, general public awareness, and value reorientation, it was also developed with a core objective of providing de-risk opportunities for all adult Africans to participate and earn money from agriculture and agribusiness under 48 well-defined categories.
Tune in on Tuesday, October 29th, 2024 from 1 to 2 p.m. for a live appearance on Inspiration 105.9 FM.
Continue to Inspiration 105.9 FM. We're 1 o'clock on the dial, like you just heard, and it's time for us to go hectare by hectare across Nigeria. You'll be asking, what do we mean when we say hectare by hectare? Well, I don't have any or all the answers. I have someone in the studio just to do justice to that. But while you may ask, if you've listened to the promo, you would at least have picked from that promo that you've been listening to that has drawn you to this hour that it may be somehow related to agriculture. And why agriculture? When you look at what the figures say, you look at the statistics and see how many Nigerians face food insecurity. Presently, approximately 22 million Nigerians may not have food to eat in the next 1 month or two, and the number is rising by the year and by the day. 80 to 82 million at risk to face severe food insecurity by the year 2030. You put this side by side with the increasing unemployment rate in Nigeria, and therefore you know we have a ticking time bomb on our hands, except we follow or chart a new course, a fresh course, to make sure there's food for the people, to make sure there's jobs for the youths who keep coming out to look for those jobs every single day. Well, these are some of the promises you may be able to take from this particular program, hectare by hectare, from the little I've been able to glean and garner from the gentleman I'll be talking to for the next 1 hour. His name is Barrister Chijioke Orji, and so I don't know, maybe everything he says here would be his word and bond. But I'd like to say good afternoon and welcome to founder Hectare by Hectare program. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, sir. The first thing someone will ask is, when you say hectare by hectare, are you taking land off people? What is hectare by hectare? What's the project all about? What's the driving force? What does it hope to achieve?
Okay, thank you once more, and thank you the people of Akwa Ibom. My name once again, Chijioke Orji. I'm a lawyer, and most of you will be wondering, what does a lawyer do with agriculture? Well, I'd like to let you know that law is an instrument for development of society, and every person that is a lawyer is supposed to be a social engineer. So I 6.5 years ago, I felt the need to use my legal knowledge to intervene in what seemed to be a problem that is brewing, which is unemployment. And I felt that agriculture possesses the access to solving that unemployment problem. And I use my legal knowledge to start, intellecting on how to solve what inhibits people from, participating in agriculture. I thought that if I could solve those problems, which is access to land, technical expertise, finance, and market, that if I could solve those problems, then I would have created an opportunity to create employment for a whole lot of people. Because what is all about is to give people the opportunity to participate. The way it is configured now, the way agriculture is practiced now, does not allow a lot of access to so many people. So what we have done in the past 6.5 years is to create the legal framework that enables everybody to participate. And in the course of the presentation, you will see that. And using it to now solve the unemployment problem. Because, of course, you will also see that as much as possible, we're also trying to solve, create value, do value orientation. Because I believe that the biggest challenge that we're facing in Africa is mindset. So if we can solve the unemployment problem and give people access to participating in agriculture and, achieve wealth creation, we will now have the moral right to begin to tell them about mindset change. Because for me, I think that is the foundation of our problem as a society, as a people. Since I came to Akwa Ibom, each time I come, one of the questions that I ask some of the young people, I spoke to a young person, recently in the hotel that I'm staying. I said, "What's your name?" She said, "My name is either Light or something." But I got to find out that the Akwa Ibom translation is Owana. I said, "Why are you answering that?" So there's a mindset problem. And, so a lot of us find it more interesting to consume foreign food without knowing that the local one that we have here is even better, is more nutritious. That there's a reason why God put us here. If He wanted us to go to heaven direct, He would have sent us. So for us to be here, we must justify, why God brought us here. And so for me, it is beyond just making money. It is beyond, wealth creation. It is a social enterprise. We're using it to change the narrative. So I'm happy to be here in Akwa Ibom, and in the course of the conversation, you will see how everybody will be involved. And what is also interesting, I'd like to inform all of you that our Chief Operating Officer is from Akwa Ibom, an intelligent young lady that has been part of, this movement, this thing that will become one of the biggest things that happen in agriculture in the whole of Africa, not just Nigeria. By the first week of December, we'll be invited by the government of Burundi, because they want to adopt our system to, solve their, own problem over there. So I'm glad to be here. We'll discuss further.
Okay, so how exactly does Hectare by Hectare work, and how can people get involved in it? You mentioned 4 critical things, which yes, some people have the wish to, they don't have access to the land, and maybe that's where the hectares come in. But where do the other things come in? Who brings the technical expertise? Who brings the money? And then after, okay, we've done the farming and everything, how is off-taking done? How is this belt structured to work?
Okay, now before I even get to that, you see, what we're doing is so massive, it's unbelievable. That's why it took so long. That's why if you look at, people are doing agriculture every day, but there are challenges. You see, what we have done is, what you can liken to, you see, the internet is information superhighway. What we have developed is agriculture and agribusiness superhighway that connects everybody. People are farming, but it's not integrated. There is no system. You see, the federal government has spent so much time and resources developing the oil and gas industry, so that if you stay here in Uyo with just a document, you can get value. You don't have to really go and do things physically. So that's what we have done. So for us to enable us to achieve that, what we are doing is to use a franchising model, to be everywhere. What we are managing as a company is the back end. That's why if you look at it, we're leveraging technology to do all these things. So for instance, there's already, for every nation we go to, there's a franchise company that brings us to the country, which is owned by those people. There's a franchise company for every state in the country. There's a franchise company for Akwa Ibom as we speak. So it requires Akwa Ibomites to take ownership of it and use that company to promote the program in Akwa Ibom. And the model is that in every community in Akwa Ibom, there's a franchise cooperative, a community franchise cooperative. It also requires the elite of that community to take the franchise of the program to their community, so that they can bring governance, system to agriculture and agribusiness in the community, because that's the only way you can really bring value and organize it. So it is a franchising model we're using. Now, if you look at what is also enabling what we have done, there are 36 agreements governing the system. There are all sorts of guidelines and procedures. there are 6 software applications. You know, so all these things are the things that there are 14, you know, market penetration tools. So it's a lot of intellection that has happened. Now the program is divided into 5 schemes. Now the first scheme is farm estate scheme. It was inspired by a traditional practice. You know, in every African society, during farming season, people send money back home for others to do the farming. So all we did was to now do a lot of intellection and use that same thing and build around it, you know, using, you know, creating the legal framework around it. So what we do in the farm estate scheme is to meet the requirements of industrial off-takers. As I speak with you, I'm dealing with the Coconut Processors and Marketers Association of Nigeria. You know, we're looking at Akwa Ibom as a major place to off-take a lot of coconut, to plant and off-take. Because the value chain of coconut is quite huge. There's a lot that comes out of it. And so we start with an off-take agreement. As I speak with you, one of my, you know, outings here, I've had a meeting with a bank that is banking one of our major off-takers. For your information, one of the biggest rice mills in the southeast and south-south is in Akwa Ibom here. It's called Sakam Agro.
Okay.
Right? They cannot, if you farm all the land in Akwa Ibom for rice paddy, they will off-take everything. And you can imagine how much employment that is going to create. So basically what we do in the farm estate scheme is when we have an off-taker like Sakam Agro, you know, who produce, they have a plant that has 240 metric tons, you know, and so they can absorb a whole lot. It's huge. So once we sign an off-take agreement with such a processing company, we go to the land. We use land aggregators. We look for land that is commensurate to produce what the off-taker needs. Because, you see, the farming is not a challenge. The biggest challenge of all the 4 problems I mentioned, access to land, technical expertise, finance, and market. Market is the biggest problem. It's not any of these things. Most people may think it's finance. No. If you structure where finance is there, there's so much money in the system. I'm going to come back to how we raise the money. Okay. You know, so once we sign that off-take agreement, the next thing is to find a land that is commensurate to produce the quantity that you want. Now we have developed a partnership model with land-owning communities. What we came up with, remember I told you what is practiced in most African societies. You know, you see those who send money back home. Even in your own community, you see families give other families land to farm on.
Yes.
You know, there's an arrangement. So all we have done is the model will develop
to modernize that model.
Precisely. So the communities get 5% of the gross income for the land they are bringing. We don't buy land. We don't even lease it. We're just partnering with community. There's land everywhere. There's so much land.
So instead of the land to like
just lying fallow. So nobody is buying any land. Nobody is leasing it. The community is just bringing their land as their own, you know, contribution.
Their stake.
Their stake. So what we do is to plan it out into a farm estate. So what we're doing, like I said, we have 48 different stakeholders who are participating in this. I'll come to that. Now, so we have experts, we have architects, we have civil engineers. So that land is laid out into a farm estate, just like you have, if you look at your typical housing estate. Let's look at a wet housing. With all the road network, all the irrigation systems, we do proper topographic survey. You see, a lot of people just want to farm, they enter, they clear the land, but you need to look at the levels. So for purposes of reticulation of water, you see, you plan the land, you prepare it for something like rice farming. There's a lot of the challenge that most communities have. They don't have the resources to open up the land. There's a lot of land, you know. So by the time we lay it out into a farm estate, 1 hectare, because that is also connected to how the money is raised. Now, like I said, the community gets 5% of gross for the land. And the community, because we also reasoned out that in some communities, not all the families are part of the land ownership. So we created another 5% profit as community development fee.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Now, we created another 2.5% profit as for the youths, for security, a security fee. Right? Now, when we lay out the parcels of the land, plan it well, we will now come to how we raise the money. How do we raise the money? Individuals like you are the proxy farmers. Just to say, remember the same way you send money back home.
Yeah.
So now the difference in this our model is by the time we calculate the cost of developing 1 hectare, assuming it is 500,000, what is interesting is that you're not even required to give us that money. All you need to do is to put the money in your own account, in your own savings account, and it becomes a cash collateral. So what it is that even if, because a lot of people have savings account, but when you look at what you're getting in return, we are now giving you an opportunity to get so much more. So by the time you aggregate, let's say we're doing 4,000 hectares. If, for instance, there's 1 million, everybody have brought, that's 4 billion. It's easy, that becomes a collateral to raise money from Development Bank, or working with Development Bank of Nigeria. Now, before we got to this stage, we met all the strategic stakeholders. We went to Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, who gave us endorsement and even now directed us to Development Bank. Now, Development Bank is an on-lending bank. They work with commercial banks because the interest rate is low. And their mandate is to deal with, things like SMEs, empowering people and all that. So that's why we're working with them, because it's a social enterprise. So as a proxy farmer, what you're getting, if you look at the expression proxy farmer, you don't have to physically do the farming.
Your money is farming.
But your money is working for you. But what is interesting, that your money is still in your account. Now, repayment of the loan we borrowed for you is done by the proceeds of the farming, not with your money. So now, when the cultivation is done and Sakamagro offtakes, so through a warehousing system that we have also developed, his bank, the bank of Sakamagro, inflows the money, pays for it into the transaction bank, who has a schedule of who is participating. So we as a company don't even touch the money. It is that bank that now disburses to everybody what is your due. As a proxy farmer, what you get is 50% of the profit. There's a resident farmer who is possibly a youth in that community that will manage 5 farm lots. He gets 10% of the profit. Don't forget that this is mechanized farming. It is not what the resident farmers are doing, just maintenance, weeding and doing all the. So your role is to make sure that those 5 farm lots are well, taken care of, and you get 10% of profit plus monthly stipends with your own laborers. So what you are doing is that you're creating employment for everybody. You're creating businesses. Now the community is fully involved. So, what we have done is a stabilization system. Everybody's business. So, what we have even modeled, the traditional ruler of that community gets 2% of the profit.
Okay, because I wanted to ask who engages on behalf of the community, because...
First of all, there's a land aggregator. Okay. He goes to do all the customary things. He's also getting part of the profit.
Okay.
So a land aggregator is a stakeholder from that community. He goes to explain this model to them. We don't go. It is when everything is done, so that the community could see that this thing is their thing. Like I said, we don't buy the land, we don't lease it, we're just, developing it with the community, and everybody is happy. You've created so much wealth, and what is interesting in the model, the local government of that where the land is also gets ground rent.
Okay.
and the state government who created an education and health fee for the state government. So everybody, and we're working with civil defense. They're also getting 2.5% as, the agro rangers of, civil, they have agro rangers too. They're getting 2.5% of profit as security fee. So you can see this, everything has been taken care of. Now, don't forget that we are just aggregators. There are technical people, the agronomists, the agri people that will do all the farming, that will do everything. In fact, the way we are modeled, it is the off-taker that brings the seedlings.
Okay.
The off-taker brings the seedling.
Okay.
So that it conforms to what you want. All we're bringing is the finance, the land, and the labor.
Okay. That sounds quite interesting.
So,
and some people would want to understand a little more because one problem people always foresee is that, okay, so someone wants to do an agricultural venture, large agricultural venture, and because land belongs to government, then the next thing you see either they put a main road there or tell you they want to do a hospital or something. And communities might be skeptical that what if this happens? Is there something already in place to make sure that these kind of inconsistencies don't come up?
Well, when government is interested in the welfare of the people, you see what we're doing is, we are complementing what government is doing. That's basically what we're doing. So if you go to develop 4,000 hectares of land, for instance, you will be amazed at the number of people it will employ. If you do your calculations, if, for instance, we create 4,000 lots, because if you're doing 4,000 hectares, you have to give or take, land for road and all that. But assuming you have 4,000 lots, if you calculate that every 5 lots is managed by one resident farmer, look at the numbers, plus the laborers.
Yeah.
So you are bringing in so much resources to the community. Everybody is happy. And that's what government is looking for. So in terms of land, nobody is taking a land for, do you understand? Nobody is buying the land. Nobody is just, you're using the land. You see, part of why we have challenges in this country, we are not working the land enough. Everything is in land. Everything. The car hire guy that carried me, the other day I came in, I was trying to educate him that land is everything. I was using his vehicle. I said, do you know that everything in this vehicle came from land? He couldn't really understand it until I broke it down for him. I said, your windscreen is sand. The tire is rubber. The engine is iron ore. Everything in this vehicle is from land. So land is so important. But we are not walking the land. We are not following the commandment of God. If you see most countries that have done well, they have walked the land. Even the crude oil that is sustaining us is from land. So until we go back to the land in an organized manner, so that's what we are bringing.
Okay. I'd like to ask this question because some people may have already caught on, and when you say there are 5 schemes in what hectare for hectare or hectare by hectare has, I would say if I've heard this one, why would I need to bother with the rest? But before we go to the rest, some people might have already caught on to the idea and may say, okay, we want to be land aggregators already. Okay, stop talking. I want to see after you're done. How do they reach out to you? How do they reach out to your organization so that they could say, okay, first off, we are ready to partake of this? Okay,
just send us a WhatsApp message. I'm going to call out the number, and so that through our app, if you get your message, you can now direct you to the application. You can just go register. 080-226-80636. I repeat, 080-2268-0636. So just WhatsApp only, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, you may have to call out that number one more time, maybe a little bit slower.
Okay, 080-226-80636. WhatsApp only.
Okay, now This farm estate scheme, for me, seems like what everybody would want to go for. But you said there are other schemes, and people would say, okay, let's hear the others too, in case I'm not really going in for that farm estate thing. Can we talk about other schemes also?
Okay, I will. You see, when I talked about a farm estate scheme, we're using it to address industrial off-takers.
Yes.
Now, people are already farming. There are people who are doing their own farming all over the place.
Because I need to tell you that they have a problem with you. That okay, you want to do the farming, how about us farming?
So now to address those people, there's also aggrower scheme.
Okay.
Aggrower scheme. Now, if you ask anybody that is farming now in this Akwa Ibom, they will tell you their biggest challenge is market. How do they sell? Because you see, there are people that have occupied the space. Just like in everything. So those people will price you down. You have to work because they have the market. They have set up their structures. So now it is for these people that are already farming that will develop this agro scheme. What it does is that's why the cooperative system, under the agro scheme, you have the community franchise cooperative.
Okay.
So when you use our templates, take the franchise and go to your community. It includes warehousing system. We've developed a warehousing system. So if you have a one room in your community, you can decide to be a community warehousing partner.
Okay.
So now what the franchise system, for your community does is that I can order any produce from your community from anywhere in the world. Because there's a system in place that guarantees that whatever I ordered will get to me. You see, it's a lot of back-end support that we're providing. We have a logistics application, just like Bolt. So I'm going to come to that when I discuss the premium discount scheme. But it is a logistics system that makes sure that your produce that anybody ordered, you will deliver. We've been able to create a legal framework that ensures that. So that farmer that is in the village, in the rural area, or once you register with us through a cooperative, you must belong to a cooperative. Because we've developed a cooperative system that will also absorb existing cooperatives. So you must belong to a cooperative that will register under that franchise cooperative, that community franchise cooperative. So there's a governance system. It is that governance system that takes care of that offtake. So I will now discuss the premium discount scheme because it is connected to this agro scheme.
Okay.
Now, what the premium discount scheme does is to create the distribution of what is produced by aggrowers, these existing farmers. Now, what it does is that it connects that food direct to consumers. You see, the food price that you see that is high in the market is not the farmers that are causing it. It is the middlemen. So by designing a system that makes you get food directly from the farmers, it cuts down the price. So what have we done? We have a premium, discount scheme. Let me give you a typical example. So we're going to, have clusters in Uyo here. Let me use a warehousing. That's a cluster. Now, in a warehousing, there will be sub-consolidators. Who is a sub-consolidator? It could be a housewife. This is now becomes another business for you. We will give you foodstuff on credit. So you create your own consumer group. Within walking distance. All you need to do is to have them on your WhatsApp. And they place order with you, you place order through our system. Now, in every cluster, there will be a warehousing partner. There's a warehousing partner where these things are sent to. So when these things are ordered, they come from the farms and food processors. There's a food processor in Bobra. We're taking his gari out of Nigeria to America because it has FDA certification. So we make sure that you are, there's quality control, right? So when people order, the consumers order through the sub-consolidators. They now place their orders, and it arrives at the warehousing partner. And our logistics people will now deliver to the different sub-consolidators, who will either walk to your house and pick up, or you go deliver to them on foot. Now, what is interesting about our logistics system? Like I said, we have our own application, just like boat, with the hunting technology, everything. Now, what is interesting is that our last mile delivery to the sub-consolidator is done with, solar powered tricycles.
Okay.
So this is cutting down the cost of transportation, logistics.
That's through fuel.
Yes. So now think about the huge employment we are creating.
Because people have to run the logistics.
Precisely.
People have to go pick
Precisely.
up. Someone has to be the person in the community that warehouses and distributes.
Precisely. So now there's a company that is partnering with us that already has a tricycle. They now want to, start the massive production because of what we're doing. So you can imagine the amount of employment. And what is also interesting, our own system, the logistics, the local logistic providers who are now going on this tricycle are in situ in a warehousing, unlike boat. I can stay here and request a boat, it comes from afar. Our model is that they are in situ there, they stay stationary, only to respond to those orders from here. So that's what it is. So now what is interesting, that will now create a lot of opportunity for young people. We call them farm to home agents.
Okay.
So now who pays for the food that is coming from the farmers and the food processors? Because these our sub-consolidators are getting it on credit. So somebody must be paying the farmers. Now it is these farm to home agents that are paying. Now look at how it works. So let me give you an example. Let's say we are delivering, there's an order for, let's say, 5,000 bottles of honey. Because we're working with Beekeepers Association of Nigeria, to bring, so that when you're buying honey, it is original. So, because what is the attraction that is making you buy from a sub-consolidator? One, it's cheaper than what you get in the market. There's quality control, because we're doing the quality from source. That palm oil that you're going to get will have the phone number of the woman that processed it. If you go to the market now to buy palm oil, you don't know who processed it, you don't know where it's coming from. So there's traceability. In case anything happens, we can trace it to the source. So those are the issues. It's cheaper, there's quality control, there's traceability. Now let me get back to how these young people participate as farm to home agents. If we have 3,000 bottles of honey, let's say each bottle is 2,000. The profit margin is, let's say, 300 or 350. Now, it is these young people that finance it. The model is that the sub-consolidators get 40% of that 350. The farm-to-home agents who finance it get 40%. The warehousing partner gets 20%. Now, so each bottle of honey is a lot. So whatever is the profit margin is what you're going to get on the bidding system. It will be announced that, look, there are 3,000 bottles of honey to be financed. You will get your capital in 45 days and profit. You will see that if you finance with 2,000 naira, your profit on each 2,000 is 300 naira or 200 naira or whatever it is. So, but you must belong to a cooperative of farm to home agents. Now, the amount of lots you get is now dependent on the community community services that you perform in your community. You see, we're using this thing to take back these youths to becoming more useful in their communities. What do I mean by community service? Tree planting, creation of awareness, health education. So you become a change agent because you know you're going to be making a lot of money from participating in this contract, because it's contract. You're financing the supply of something. So we are using our systems to create opportunities for young people. So what have we done? We are, disrupting the normal flow of things, the way it is done now, to bring in our own system, and using, when we bring in that our system, it now creates opportunities for everybody. That's basically what we're doing.
Well, one or two things I was thinking about during the course of our interaction so far is now when people want to get into those cooperatives, when people want to become those farm-to-house agents and all those other roles that you've created and outlined here, should they have some level of documentation? How about their liquidity, so that you too, who's incorporating them, is sure that their being in the system is sustainable?
Okay, so now what we have done, first of all, you will, like if you send your details with the number I have called, you will have access to our app. You will see how to join, whether as a farm to home agent or whatever. But what is interesting is that we have realized, there's a lot of what is causing the problem in our societies is some kind of imbalance. A lot of people have so much money, others can't even feed. So what we are trying to achieve is to, create a society where people can just get by. So we discovered that the best way to start this thing is a cooperative system. So we are using lawyers across Africa to do the governance system of cooperatives.
Okay.
So when you cluster human beings into cooperatives, even if you have 10,000 a month, and you put it together in a way that is, you invest in the cooperative, and so collectively it becomes a lot of money that can be invested on behalf of everybody. For instance, a cooperative can take farm lots. Because your 10,000 will not go far. But if you belong to a group and you cluster the resources using the banking system the way we have created it, nobody can even tamper with that money. The way we have designed it, it goes straight to the bank. It is managed from that end. So we have also, because we have to a large extent the risk, this thing, we have made it possible to raise money for these young people who are participating.
Okay.
Because that thing you are financing, those lots that are available that you're going to finance, don't forget there's cash backing. Because these sub-consolidators who are giving things on credit have money in their own account. That is like a cash collateral.
Yes, it's sitting there.
So if on the 40th day they don't pay back what they have sold to their people, the bank debits them. So you see, the whole thing is guaranteed. So on the strength of that, we can raise money for these young people who are participating, because it's totally secured. And so can I talk about the other schemes?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
But before we go ahead, because I had said this before we came in here.
Yeah.
It's nearly 40 minutes gone, and we still have two other schemes to talk about. Now, we've talked about some of this, but for the interest of people who may just be joining us, can I have you do a little recap of what Hectare by Hectare is? Maybe 3-4 sentences,
okay,
and who it's for. Basically, you've told me it's for everybody, because there seems to be a place for everybody, but sometimes people need to hear from the horse's mouth.
Well, what we have developed, that's why it took 6.5 years. Anything that will make any difference in life takes time.
Go through the process.
Anything that you do in a hurry is not sustainable. So what we have is for everybody. There are 48 different categories. You can do logistics. You can be a sub-consolidator. You can be a proxy farmer. You can be a franchise promoter, a community. So we want the program to be in your community. You can, because you are saying, look, we have a lot of youth restiveness and all that. Let's take this
Let's
thing.
engage them.
Let's engage them. Let's use this program to engage everybody. So there are 48 different categories. And each of these categories, you see, where the work has been done is taking time to do the legal framework. Each of these categories have terms and conditions, the systems, what you get, how you participate. That is where the work has happened.
And security is for you too. Security is for those people coming.
Precisely.
Please let them have that WhatsApp number in case they have any other questions or any other thing, or they want to jump on it right now.
Okay.
They can make that contact.
Okay, once again, the number is 080-226-80636. 080-226-80636.
All right.
WhatsApp only.
There you've heard the founder of Hectare by Hectare, Barrister Chijioke Orji. We haven't unraveled it all, so it's like an onion, it's layer by layer. So we have 2 more layers of the schemes there, and I wish we could do this in the next 20 minutes so we can talk some more about some other things. Can you unravel those other layers?
Okay, now, in our bid to still keep creating offtake, for these things that are being farmed, especially the ag growers, the farmers that are existing, we decided to create food court scheme.
Okay.
What do we mean? Now, just think of your existing food, either, let me use Mr. Biggs because it's no longer, but so our model is different. Just to create market for what is being farmed and create that offtake. So we do a food court. What is a food court? Just a basic where you have different vendors. So we have a typical, the minimum is 5 vendors with kitchen. Each vendor has a kitchen. Now, what is interesting is that we eliminate competition. So this vendor is doing a Efik cuisine. This vendor is doing Igbo food. This vendor is doing Yoruba food. This vendor is doing finger food. We eliminate competition. But what is interesting is that they all get those places free. No rent. But guess what? Every raw material, all the raw food must come from the farms that the agrowers are doing. You see, you're creating, and our template, our policy, what we are looking at is that every urban place, every town will have a minimum of 5. So if you look at Uyo now, we use strategic places, to set up distance. Now, so these food vendors do not collect the money. It's just like if you go to any of these shopping places like ShopRite and all that, the collection of money is centralized. So that enables the bank to also distribute what belongs to everybody. So they even get the raw materials on credit. Since the money is being collected centrally, it is just a balancing, and we'll have an application that drives that. Now, what is interesting, again, it gives opportunity for everybody to participate in, if you like, call it food real estate. That, food court belongs to so many people. These cooperatives that we're setting up could have 300 members that own a food court. Now, let me tell you the economics of it. Because, so this is now fractional real estate. So rather than, because most people may not be able to muster 100 million to build, but you can be part of a cooperative that owns a food court.
That puts together
the resources. Now, let me tell you the economics of it. Now, if you're a food vendor, who are these vendors? All these mama put sellers who do not have the capacity to come up with, proper real estate to apply their trade. But they cook very, very well, which is what they have, because they cook well, they'll drive traffic. So that's what we're interested in. We're not interested in your rent. Now, here is how those who own the food court make money. Because what we have done, so for those vendors, assuming the cost what you sell a plate to make money and make profit is 2,000 naira. We won't tamper with it. We'll add 10% of that. That 10% becomes money that belongs to those who own the real estate. Now think about it. That you have 5 vendors that drive traffic. In a day, they can easily sell 2,000 plates. And if you look at, 200 naira, which is 10%, what you're looking at is 400,000 a day. In 30 days, that's 12 million. Just do the calculation for 12 months. That's 100 and something million.
144.
Yeah. So you can imagine that kind of real estate, that you're making money from food business without directly, being involved. So this becomes a way everybody participates. When I say this is available to everybody, this is what I mean.
Now, I hope you tell me that the last scheme we haven't talked about yet to cover the export part, because there are some people who produce and say, oh, I'm sending it out for foreign exchange.
Now, the export part is under the premium discount. So,
okay.
I had discussed that.
Yes,
so those sub-consolidators that I used there were 1,000 to give example. Those women will have the same equivalent abroad.
Okay.
So you can be a diaspora sub-consolidator, because our mandate, our plan is to send food to Africans in diaspora cheaper than what they buy in the African shops over there, because it's coming direct from the farms. So it is the same model that you have those diaspora sub-consolidators. You have local sub-consolidators, you have diaspora sub-consolidators.
So you're now having those diaspora sub-consolidators as mini African shops.
Precisely.
Who can get it cheaper.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now the last scheme is the volunteering scheme. Because what we are saying, that brings me back to, when I started, I talked about mindset. This is a social enterprise. Like I said, there's a reason God brought us here. One of my focus in life is to leave a legacy. I believe that we have really suffered a lot as Africans. And this inferiority complex that we have, I believe, because I had a speaking engagement somewhere, I spoke to some young people. I said, some of you that are changing your colors and you still think that God will hear your prayers, you're wasting your time. Because what you're doing by changing your complexion, your color, is that you're challenging God. You're asking him, why did you make me a black person? So how do you think he will listen to your prayers? You see, I'm from Arochukwu here. I'm from a very, very cultural and traditional place. We love our culture, and that's what I encourage everybody, because there's a reason God put our ancestors here. I mean, you have such a wonderful state, Akwa Ibom. I told you, one of you is part of this, program. Yeah. And someday you will have cause to celebrate her. When I fly into Akwa Ibom, I see the greenery. I see the water everywhere. And I say, my God, look at what God has done for this place. It is now for us, the human beings,
to use what
God has given us. You have the resources, enormous. And that's what we are promoting. That's what it's all about. So we are saying, yes, we are making it possible for these young people to make money from the program. But you must give back to the society. You must do community services. That's what the volunteering program scheme is all about. You must do reawakening. You must be a change agent. It's not just about making money. So that's why if you look at our write-up, we say value orientation, general public awareness. Because I took a lot of inspiration from what Christ did. When he fed the multitude, he realized that the people were hungry and he had to feed them. I believe that for me to push this program, people, we need to provide. That is why, we need to provide for people before we now start ministering to them.
So that
their ears can open. Because when a man is hungry and you're talking and praying, it wouldn't work. So I guess
it's a fully loaded package.
Yeah.
And the next question I'll ask, because I do know the mindsets of some of the people in Akwa Ibom State, and the present state government also has ventures into agriculture. We've talked about different ways individuals can come in. What if the government is interested? Is there a way they can also leverage on this to make sure they help you achieve the aims and objectives of this program better?
Yeah, we are open to, like I told you, we've been invited by the government of Burundi. Burundi is in East Africa. The former Nigerian ambassador, was the person that introduced us to their current ambassador, who now found interest, introduced us to their, the government. So, the state government can partner with us, no doubt about it, and what I see is more of the awareness creation. That's where I see, that partnership. It's more of the awareness,
to let the youth know.
Yes,
these possibilities
yes,
are
yes,
there.
yes. That's basically where I see, the partnership. Because in terms of, the thing is self-funding. The way it's configured is self-funding. So there's a lot of money here. There's a lot of money in most states. I had a meeting with a former governor of the state, and he was telling me that, look, my state is a civil service state. I say, Your Excellency, you're wrong. That I would like to prove to you that there's a lot of money in your state. He had some of his commissioners there. I said, what is the in situ population of this, your state? At the end of the day, we agreed about 3 million. That's the population on ground, not people that are scattered.
Yes.
And I say, Your Excellency, are you aware that these 3 million people, on the average, spend 10,000 naira on food every month? Do you know the number?
And that's even a small figure.
That's 30 billion.
Yeah, the 10,000 is even small.
I just wanted to be very conservative.
Okay.
And that's the kind of money we are talking about. But the problem is that everybody is doing his own thing. It's scattered. So that's how come you're not seeing the effect. But what we have built is a system and a structure. You see, that's why the politicians talk about structure. This person has structure. This person. So this is a structure that will give meaning and make it easy. And when I was talking here, I talked about the middlemen.
Yes.
Who add price to all this and make it. And if I give you 2 truckloads of garena to go and sell, you will sweat. You know why? People have.
Yes.
But what is interesting is that we are not cutting them off. They still have role to play, incorporating them.
Yes.
Because they do logistics for us. They become, aggregators, produce aggregators. So they play that role. But the difference is that we are now kind of managing the pricing. It's not going to run riot.
Because they no longer determine.
Precisely. There's a system to it. That's basically what we have done. And before we conclude, I'd like to touch on the farm estate scheme. You see, we sat down with NAIC because some people may be thinking, what if there's a loss? It's very important. We sat down with NAIC, Nigerian Agricultural and Insurance Corporation. Now they are aggregating almost all the insurance companies to partner with them on this program, and dealt with 2 major policies they have. Now, one of the policies is special perils. So now, as we're going to farm for Saka, what could go wrong? Okay, there could be flood, there could be natural disasters. That's where the special perils comes. Nobody is going to make profit. All the people that are supposed to make, they will not. But the amount to farm the next cycle will be secured.
Okay.
Now, there's another policy yield protection, insurance policy. So what that does is that if we are starting, when we are doing the cash flow, we're going to benchmark it on the minimum yield, not the maximum yield. If 1 hectare, we use 7 tons. We will choose a lower, the minimum yield. We may choose 5 tons and do the financials on 5 tons. So if for any reason the yield falls below 5 tons, insurance kicks in and makes up the balance. So when you look at it, you can see that we've done a lot by de-risking it. But there is no perfect situation in life, but what we have done is to limit what could, possibly happen and find solutions to it,
There are many people that could be listening to us, and first and foremost, I'd like you to let them know that it's not only about Akwa Ibom, because people also listen to us outside the state, outside the country too. And then the second thing would be how can we help some people who are listening to us who may not have the luxury, to call it that, because it's not with some people, of being able to operate technology, and this has to do with technology. Are there ways that Hectare by Hectare can help them, most especially those in the rural areas, to overcome those challenges?
So that's the beauty of the cooperative system.
Okay.
There's no way. People are doing all sorts of computer games, they do NigerBet and all that. Do you understand? There must be some 2 people or some other people in your group that will know how to do those things.
Okay.
In those days when we were growing up, people were writing letters for illiterate to do you understand what I'm saying? So that's the way out.
Okay. Okay. Let them know how big this is, in case someone didn't join us from the beginning, where you've talked about having gone around the country. Let them know how they can also get involved, whether they are in Akwa Ibom or not, so that it doesn't seem as if I've taken you away.
Well, I'm just I came to Akwa Ibom from Abia State. I did a similar, awareness program in Abia, So is the whole of Africa. It's not even just Nigeria, So, like I said, it has taken us 6.5 years to get here. We've been, putting things together. We've done some, trials. We have made some mistakes. We focus more on there's a downstream, the midstream, and the upstream. We focus more on the downstream. All this while, we have done some, farm estate. We made mistakes. We learned from it. But now we are fully ready. That's why we are now coming to the public.
Okay. Please let them have that phone number, how they can reach out to you to get involved in this big project.
Okay. The number, once again, is 080 22 68 0636. 080 22 68 0636. WhatsApp only.
All right. Just to try to recap, whether you are a food vendor, whether you own a fast food outlet, whether you do logistics in delivery, whether you are an unemployed person, or you're working one way or the other, you have anything to do with agriculture and food, or you don't have anything to do with it, please try to get on the platform and find out how best you can leverage on the opportunity Hectare by Hectare is giving you. I must say thanks to the founder, Hectare by Hectare, Barrister Chijioke Oji. Thank you for coming to share knowledge with us this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we leave you with a song by the band, and well, it's an African project, so we can go all around Africa with this one. Cocoa, not chocolate. It's Inspiration FM. Good afternoon.